I experienced rebirth. The first thing I did after coming back was throw away the bundle Mother had packed. Inside, the gold-lacquered chest were Mother's most treasured pieces of jewelry and her shattered dignity that had long since run dry of tears. In my past life, Father wanted to elevate his pregnant mistress to equal wife status. When Mother refused, he found every way to force her into divorce. Mother was too proud to submit, so she requested to leave the household herself and took me back to my maternal grandfather's home. Half a month later, Father contracted a disease and died while managing flood control, and was posthumously granted the title of Marquis of Loyalty by His Majesty. That mistress's son inherited the title and lived in endless glory. And Mother, in the end, died consumed by grief and resentment. This life. Looking at Mother's ashen face, I closed the door, latched it shut, and blocked out all the noise from the outside world. I held her ice, cold hands, my voice barely above a whisper, yet every word crystal clear. Mother, don't be foolish. For a man who doesn't love you. For that ridiculous notion of face. Are you really willing to accept this? Mother looked at me with tear-filled eyes, murmuring, "But your father, he doesn't want us anymore." I smiled, with a hint of coldness from my past life and calculation from this one. He is going to die. Mother jolted violently, staring at me in horror, as if I were some strange monster. I leaned close to her ear, word by word, telling her about the future that was about to come, as if it were a sweet secret. Within half a month, Father will die at his post, and His Majesty will posthumously grant him the title of Marquis. Mother, we're not leaving. Not only are we not leaving, we're going to welcome him and that woman in with smiles. We're going to watch with our own eyes how they pave a path to the clouds for us, mother and daughter. Mother's body was trembling. Her gaze shifted from terror, slowly turned to confusion, and finally settled on my face. She saw the unfathomable depth in my eyes that didn't belong to a 15-year-old girl. It was the coldness of someone who had lived 2 lives, who had crawled through hell once. "Jouer, have you gone delirious from the fever?" Mother reached out to feel my forehead, but her fingers were trembling. I grabbed her hand and pressed it against my cheek, my gaze terrifyingly resolute. "Mother, your daughter had a dream. In the dream, we left, and that woman moved into your main courtyard, slept in your bed, beat and scolded your daughter. Her son inherited the Shen family's title, took the wealth and glory Father traded his life for, and mocked us mother and daughter like stray dogs. Can you accept that?" Those last 4 words, I asked so softly, yet they struck Mother's heart like a heavy hammer. The tears in Mother's eyes stopped. In their place was a hint of resolve born from being pushed to the edge. That was the fierce spirit buried deep in her bones as a daughter of a military family. "I won't accept it." Mother gritted her teeth, her voice still trembling slightly, yet already laced with hatred. "That is right." I helped Mother sit back down on that rosewood-carved armchair. With gentle movements, I took out the phoenix hairpin she had just haphazardly stuffed into the chest and reinserted it into her hair bun. In the mirror, a face that still retained its charm yet looked utterly haggard was reflected. I stood behind her, smoothing out the wrinkles on her collar. "Since you are not willing to accept this, then let's change how we live. From today on, Shen Yi is not your husband. He is just a stepping stone on our path to wealth and glory. That mistress, Su Yuniang, is not your rival either. She is the clown here to put on a show for us. Mother, what you need to do is not cry and make a scene, not seek a divorce, but to be more magnanimous and virtuous than ever before. We're going to turn this Shen manor into a giant cage and lure them right into our trap." Outside the door, a flurry of noisy footsteps could be heard. It was Father Shen Yi, bringing that pregnant mistress Su Yuniang, coming to force our hand. In my previous life, it was right here that Mother smashed the teacup, tore off all pretenses, and ended up with a miserable ending. This life, I held down Mother's hand as she tried to stand up. Mother, stay seated. The show is about to begin. The door was pushed open with a bang. Father Shenyi stood at the doorway with a face full of anger, followed by Su Yunyang dressed all in plain white, yet unable to hide her seductive allure. Su Yunyang stood with her slightly swollen belly, one hand protecting her stomach, the other timidly tugging at her father's sleeve. What a picture of pitiful beauty. Madame Liu, how long are you going to keep making a scene? Shenyi came in aggressive from the start, trying to cover his guilt with his roaring. Yunyang is already pregnant. That is the Shen family's flesh and blood. If you still won't agree, don't blame me for not honoring our old affections. If this were the previous life, Mother would have already been fuming with rage by now, pointing at his nose and cursing him as a heartless bastard. But right now, the room was dead silent. Mother sat upright in the armchair, holding a cup of tea in her hands. The tea lid gently skimmed the foam, making a crisp ding sound. In this tense atmosphere, it sounded particularly jarring. I stood beside Mother, meek and docile, like a startled quail. But from the corner of my eye, I was coldly sizing up this perfect couple. Shenyi, my dear father, you probably never imagined that the mistress you so desperately wanted to make legitimate, the son you treasured like a jewel, would all end up as weeds on your grave. And you've got half a month left to live. I actually felt a trace of pity for a dying man. It was the last bit of mercy a hunter shows watching prey about to step into a trap. Is the master done speaking? Mother finally spoke. Her voice was flat, so flat there wasn't a single ripple. There was no hysterical anger, nor any mournful, plaintive sobbing. This abnormal calmness made Shen Yi freeze for a moment. The bellyful of scolding words he had prepared suddenly got stuck in his throat. Su Yunyang obviously sensed something was off too. Her eyes darted, and she immediately tried to kneel again. Sister, it is all my fault. I shouldn't have fallen in love with the master, shouldn't have had this child. If sister is displeased, I'll leave right now and never put master in a difficult position. This tactic of retreating to advance. She had mastered it perfectly in her previous life. Every time, Mother would be provoked, then speak without restraint, and end up becoming that vicious, jealous woman. But this time, before she could kneel down, I caught her. My grip was strong, clamping down hard on her wrist, so painful her face turned pale. Concubine Su is with child. How could she perform such a grand gesture? I raised my head, an innocent smile on my face. If the little brother gets hurt, father would be heartbroken. Su Yunyang looked at me in horror. She didn't expect that the legitimate young miss who usually only hid behind Mother crying would have such a strong grip. Even less did she expect that I would call her concubine and call that bastard little brother. Shen Yi was also stunned. He looked at me, then at Mother, somewhat at a loss. Mingju, you! I let go of Su Yunyang's hand, retreated back to Mother's side, and said obediently, Father, Mother was just telling me about this. She said, the Shen family has few heirs, and if concubine Su can bear children for the Shen family, it would be a great merit. Mother was just about to have someone tidy up the west courtyard for concubine Su to rest during her pregnancy. These words struck like a thunderbolt, leaving Shen Yi and Su Yunyang completely stunned. Su Yunyang widened her eyes in disbelief. The west courtyard. That was the finest courtyard in the Shen residence aside from the main courtyard. Shen Yi stammered even more as he asked, Madame Liu, what Mingju said, is it true? Everyone's eyes were focused on Mother. This was the most crucial step, and also the hardest step. Inside my sleeve, I gently squeezed Mother's palm. That was the secret signal between US mother and daughter. Mother took a deep breath. She slowly raised her head and looked at Shen Yin. Those eyes, there was no longer any love, only a melancholy of having seen through the world and magnanimity. Master. Mother stood up and gave Shen Yi a slight curtsy. This concubine was wrong, headed before. This concubine was too jealous and nearly ruined the Shen family's lineage. Since Sister Su is already with child, she belongs to the Shen family. If she were left to wander outside, wouldn't that give people reason to poke at the Shen family's backbone? This concubine will have someone prepare right away, pick an auspicious day, and welcome Sister Su into our home. As for the position of equal wife, Mother paused for a moment, glanced at Su Yunyang's eyes that suddenly lit up, and the corner of her lips curled into a faint, barely perceptible sneer. Since Master has agreed, this concubine naturally won't stand in the way. As long as the elders of the clan give their approval, this concubine will have no objections. Shen Yi probably never dreamed that things would go this smoothly. He had originally thought he'd have to go through an earth-shattering argument, and had even prepared himself to write a divorce letter. As it turned out, Mother not only agreed, but agreed so readily, so gracefully. Looking at Mother's calm and gentle face, a huge wave of guilt actually surged up in his heart. "Madam," he called out haltingly, his tone softening, "you really do see the bigger picture. Rest assured, after Yunyang enters the household, she will never overstep you. You will forever be the mistress of the Shen family." Hearing these words, a trace of unwillingness flashed through Su Yunyang's eyes as she stood to the side, but she quickly concealed it. She nestled against Shen Yi and said sweetly, "Thank you, sister, for your blessing. This little sister will definitely serve sister well in the future, and would never dare overstep in the slightest." Mother gave her a bland glance, saying nothing. That kind of condescending indifference was more unbearable than any verbal abuse. I chimed in at just the right moment. "Father, since concubine Su is to enter the household, the ceremony can't be too modest. After all, she is becoming an equal wife, and she is coming in pregnant. If it is too shabby, wouldn't people laugh at father for favoring his concubine and mistreating his wife?" Shen Yi was stunned. In this era, elevating someone to equal wife wasn't proper, but it wasn't without precedent. It is just that most people did it quietly. "Who would make a big show of it?" I said with a smile. "Father, you are about to be promoted. So many eyes are watching our household. If we're secretive about it, it would actually make us look guilty. We might as well do it openly, letting everyone see that father is loyal and devoted, and mother is virtuous and gracious. This way, those censors at the censorate won't be able to find any fault." Shen Yi nodded repeatedly as he listened. What he cared about most was his reputation as an official and his future prospects. Although in my past life, he was impeached for moral failings. In this life, I would help him make up for this deficiency. Make it up into a gaping hole. Mingju makes a good point. Shen Yi looked at me approvingly. "My daughter is still the clever one. Then we'll do as Mingzu says, madam. You are in charge of the household affairs, so I'll leave this matter to you. Make sure it is done grandly. We can't wrong Yunyang." Mother nodded slightly. "Rest assured, master, this concubine understands." After seeing off the delighted Shen Yi and Su Yunyang, the room fell quiet again. Mother slumped in her chair as if all her strength had been drained. "Juer, do we really have to hold a wedding ceremony for that despicable woman?" Mother's voice still carried a hint of reluctance. I walked to the table, poured myself a cup of tea, and sipped it slowly. The tea had already gone cold, somewhat bitter, but to me, it tasted sweet as honey. "Yes, of course we will. Not only will we hold it, we'll make it grand and spectacular." "Mother, do you know what killing with kindness means?" Mother looked at me with confusion. I set down the teacup, my gaze sharp as a blade. Su Yunyang came from a brothel. She is short-sighted. She thinks that once she has stepped through the gates of this marquee manor, she is above everyone else. Then we'll give her exactly that illusion. Give her the finest courtyard, the most expensive jewelry, the best bird's nest to eat. Make her feel that this Shen manor is her kingdom. Make her feel that you, the lady of the house, are weak and easy to bully. Make her feel that father is so bewitched by her. He has thrown all propriety out the window. I walked to mother's side, crouched down, and looked up at her. Mother, those whom the gods would destroy, they first make mad, will lift her up high, all the way up to the clouds. And when the time comes, with just a gentle push, I made a gesture of flipping my palm over. She would fall and be smashed to pieces. Mother looked at me, a flash of shock passing through her eyes. She probably never imagined that her usually pampered daughter would have such deep scheming. But soon, the shock in her eyes turned into relief, and a hint of resolve. Good. Mother stroked my head. Since Jouer has already thought it through, then we'll do as Jouer says. I'd like to see just how long this Su Yuniang can stay so arrogant. That night, the lights in the west courtyard stayed on all night. Mother acted swiftly and decisively, truly following my wishes, and began arranging Su Yuniang's living quarters. The west courtyard was named Tinyu Pavilion, originally a guest courtyard in the manor, but its advantage was the excellent scenery, with the courtyard filled with precious banana plants and begonias. More importantly, it was very close to father's study. The moment Su Yuniang saw this courtyard, her eyes went wide. She had originally thought that even if mother agreed to let her in, she would arrange some remote corner for her. She never expected it to be such a prime location. This is really for me. Su Yuniang caressed the brand. New rosewood furniture in the room, along with the exquisite porcelain displayed on the curio shelf, her face full of disbelief. Nanny Wang, standing to the side, said with a fake smile, "Concubine Su, this was specially ordered by the madam. The madam said that since concubine is pregnant, your body is precious, so naturally your living quarters cannot be handled carelessly." All the furnishings in this room were picked out from madam's private storehouse. Even the bed canopy is made of cloud brocade newly tributed this year. Even the master hasn't used it yet. Su Yuniang was overjoyed to hear this. She smugly rubbed her belly, thinking, indeed, a mother's status rises with her child. That old woman must be afraid of the master, so she has no choice but to butter me up. She glanced sideways at Nanny Wang, her chin slightly raised. Thanks, sister, for me. But the color of this vase is a bit plain. I don't like it. Get me something more vibrant. The smile on Nanny Wang's face froze for a moment. Then she lowered her head and replied, "Yes, this old servant will go change it right away." As she turned to leave, a cold glint flashed in Nanny Wang's eyes. She hasn't even officially entered the family yet, and she is already putting on airs like a mistress. She really doesn't know what is good for her, and this was exactly the effect I wanted. Meanwhile, in the main courtyard, Mother and I were going over the account books. Mother felt a pang watching all that silver flowing out entry after entry. Jouer, this is way too extravagant. Just furnishing the west courtyard alone cost 3,000 taels of silver. That is half a year's living expenses for us. I smiled and closed the account book. Mother, you can't catch the wolf without sacrificing the child. These 3,000 taels bought Su Yuniang's arrogance, bought father's guilt, and bought the gossip of the entire household. Totally worth it. I pointed to a line of text in the account book. Besides, look here. Mother leaned in to look and saw it written, West Courtyard renovation expenses, temporarily covered by the common fund, to be replenished when master's salary comes in. Mother froze for a moment. This, I sneered. Father's meager salary, how could it possibly fill this hole? When the time comes, this account will be ironclad proof that father favored his concubine over his wife and squandered money recklessly. Besides, I lowered my voice. These things, though, placed in the west courtyard, the deeds are all in our hands. Once she dies, won't they all be ours? This is called temporary storage. Mother listened, completely dumbfounded. For the first time, she realized accounts could be calculated this way, that a household could be run this way. Jouer, you? Mother looked at me, wanting to speak but holding back. I knew what she wanted to ask. She wanted to ask why I had suddenly become so sensible, so terrifying. But I couldn't say. I could only hold onto her arm and say coquettishly, "Mother, your daughter has grown up. Your daughter only wants to protect you and doesn't want you to suffer any more grievances." Mother's eyes reddened. She held me tightly, her tears soaking the front of my clothes. "Good. Mother's little Pearl has grown up. From now on, Mother will listen to you in everything." Over the next few days, the entire Shen household was bustling with activity. Mother displayed an unprecedented virtuousness. She not only personally oversaw the ceremony for Su Yunyang's entry into the household, but also showed daily care and concern, sending soups and medicines. She was even more attentive to Su Yunyang's pregnancy symptoms than Shen Yi himself. When Su Yunyang said she wanted something sour, Mother immediately sent someone to buy the freshest green plums. When Su Yunyang said she wanted silk clothes, Mother immediately sent for the best tailor in the capital to come take her measurements. When Su Yunyang said her back and waist ached, Mother immediately sent over the massage nanny she had used for years. All of this, one thing after another, was seen by the servants of the Shen household, and by Shen Yi as well. Shen Yi was moved beyond words. He felt he was simply the happiest man in the world. His wife was virtuous and magnanimous, his beautiful concubine alluring and charming. The blessing of having both wife and concubine. This was what it meant. His attitude toward Mother also underwent a complete transformation. Before, it was coldness and irritation. Now it was respect, gratitude, and even a hint of ingratiation. Every day after returning from court, he would first stop by the main courtyard to sit for a while, chat with Mother, and praise her a few times. Then he would go to the west courtyard to accompany Su Yunyang. Su Yunyang was very displeased about this. She felt that Shen Yi had been won over by that old woman. So she started causing trouble. "Ayo, master, my stomach hurts." Whenever Shen Yi stayed in the main courtyard a bit longer, news would come from the west courtyard that Su Yunyang was feeling unwell. Upon hearing this, Shen Yi would naturally rush over in a panic. Mother wasn't angry either. Instead, she urged with an anxious expression, "Master, hurry, and go check on her. Sister is heavy with child. We mustn't let anything go wrong. I am fine here. Master doesn't need to worry about me." Watching Mother's reasonable demeanor and comparing it to Su Yunyang's petty temperament, the scales in his heart were actually quietly tipping. But he was now so dizzy with anticipation of his soon-to-arrive son that he hadn't noticed the crisis within. And this was exactly what I wanted. I wanted everyone in the household to see that Su Yunyang was a spoiled shrew who flaunted her favor. And Mother was a living bodhisattva who endured humiliation and bore heavy burdens. Rumors, as if they had grown wings, began to spread through every corner of the Shen household. "Hey, have you heard? That concubine, Su. Yesterday she scolded Madam's personal maid to tears, just because a bowl of bird's nest soup wasn't hot enough. That is not all. I heard she also complained that the fabric patterns Madam sent were too old-fashioned and had them thrown right out. Tsk. She really doesn't know what is good for her. Madam treats her so well, like her own sister. And what does she do? Give her an inch, and she takes a mile. Exactly, she doesn't even look at what kind of background she has. If it weren't for the brat in her belly, would she even be worthy of stepping through the gates of our marquee manor?" These words were deliberately spread by Nanny Wang on my orders, through a few loose-lipped old servants. Of course, as the rumors spread, they eventually made their way outside the manor. They reached the tea-houses and taverns throughout the capital. They reached the ears of those censors who loved chasing after every whisper of scandal. Among them was Father's colleague, Censor Zhang, that upright and fault-finding man. Censor Zhang had impeached Father for his improper private life in my previous life. In this life, I specifically had someone tell a vivid tale about the Shen household favoring a concubine and mistreating the wife at the tea house he frequently passed by. Of course, the protagonist of the story was a certain official, but anyone with eyes could tell who it was about. They say Censor Zhang's face darkened on the spot after hearing it, and he left without even finishing his tea. I knew this fire had already been lit. Meanwhile, Su Yunyang was still lost in her sweet dream of becoming a co-wife. She wore the shimmering brocade Mother had sent, adorned with the pure gold headdress Mother had sent, acting all high and mighty in the west courtyard. She didn't know that every fine garment on her body, every piece of jewelry, was funeral attire I had carefully woven for her. Su Yunyang's wedding day was set for 3 days later. It was an auspicious day marked in the almanac, as favorable for marriage and betrothal. But I knew that day would also mark the beginning of the countdown to father's fate. According to the laws of Great Zhou, when a concubine enters the household, she can only be carried in a pink sedan chair quietly through the side gate. Even when taking a secondary wife, it is just 2 tables of wine at home and a cup of tea served to the main wife. And that is that. But Mother this time had really spared no expense. She not only had the main gate thrown wide open, but also laid out 10 miles of red dowry, and even hired an opera troupe to perform for 3 days at the entrance. Shen Yi looked at all that red silk everywhere, feeling somewhat uneasy. Madam, isn't this a bit too extravagant? Wouldn't it be overstepping? Although he doted on Su Yunyang, he also knew how important propriety was in officialdom. Mother was holding a list, checking the banquet arrangements. Hearing this, she looked up and smiled gently. My lord is mistaken. Sister Su is carrying the Shen family's flesh and blood, and she is the apple of my lord's eye. If we were stingy about it, wouldn't people think our Shen family looks down on this child? Besides, my lord is about to be promoted. Making things more lively now can bring good fortune and show that our Shen family is thriving with many heirs. These words struck right at Shen Yi's heart. What he cared about most was that unborn son and the official position that was about to be his. Madam is as thoughtful as always. Shen Yi completely let down his guard, even finding his earlier suspicions somewhat laughable. The auspicious hour had arrived. Su Yunyang wore a pink wedding dress. Though it wasn't the true red, it was still strikingly gorgeous. She walked in through the main gate with a swagger, supported by the matchmaker. The guests around were whispering among themselves. What is going on with the Shen family? Opening the central gate for a mistress. I heard Madame Shen is a pushover. Seems like it is true. This is so improper. Lord Shen usually seems so steady. How is his household in such chaos? I stood under the corridor, listening to these whispers, a cold smile curling at the corner of my lips. This was exactly the effect I wanted. Propriety is the face of noble families. Aunt's face is lost, the core rots too. When Su Yunyang stepped over the brazier and stood in the center of the main hall with a smug expression, she thought she had reached the peak of her life. Little did she know, she was walking step by step toward a cliff. Mother sat upright in the seat of honor and accepted her tea. But instead of laying down the rules for her as usual, she personally helped her up and gifted her a pair of priceless jade bracelets. Sister has worked hard. From now on, this Shen household is your home. Su Yunyang stroked the ice, cold jade, the greed in her eyes nearly overflowing. She said with a coquettish smile, "Thank you, sister." Yet she barely even bent her waist. The faces of several clan elders sitting in the lower seats had already turned rather unpleasant. They were invited by Shen Yi to add prestige, expecting a joyous occasion of the Shen family welcoming a new addition. But they never expected to witness a farce that upended all hierarchy. But I didn't give them a chance to lash out. I walked forward and innocently tugged at Su Yunyang's sleeve. "Auntie Su, your skirt hem is so pretty. Is that a phoenix embroidered on it?" The moment these words left my mouth, the entire hall fell into dead silence. The phoenix, That was a symbol only the Empress, and those of the highest nobility could use. How would Su Yunyang know any of this? She just thought it looked pretty, so she had the seamstress embroider it on. Now that I pointed it out, she even twirled around proudly. The young miss has good eyes. This is called 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix. Bang! A clan elder's teacup slammed heavily onto the table. Outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. That was third grand, uncle of the Shen family, the most old-fashioned and rigid of them all. He pointed at Su Yunyang's skirt hem, so furious that even his beard was trembling. A mere concubine dares to use the phoenix pattern. Are you trying to rebel? Su Yunyang was startled, her face turning deathly pale. She looked to Shen Yi for help. Shen Yi hadn't expected this turn of events either, and cold sweat instantly broke out. If word of this got out, it would be the crime of El Fei's. Magist Fei. At this critical moment, it was Mother who stepped forward. She walked up to third grand, uncle with a look of fear on her face, and curtsied in apology. Please calm your anger, grand. Uncle, it is all this niece-in-law's fault. My sister came from a humble background and doesn't understand these rules. It is my failure as the main wife for not teaching her properly. Please punish me, grand uncle. With this one kneel, Mother took all the blame upon herself. Third grand, uncle looked at Mother kneeling on the ground, then at Su Yunyang, who could only tremble while hiding behind a man, the disgust in his eyes deepening. Shen Yi. Oh, Shen Yi, you are truly foolish. You don't cherish such a virtuous wife, and bring in this kind of thing to embarrass yourself. The Shen family's reputation has been completely ruined by you. With that, third grand, uncle flung his sleeves and left. The other clan elders also shook their heads and sighed, rising to take their leave. A banquet that was supposed to be joyous ended on a sour note. Su Yunyang stood in place, trembling. She didn't understand. Everything was fine just a moment ago. How did it suddenly become like this? Shen Yi's face turned ashen as he glared fiercely at Su Yunyang. Go back and change out of those clothes. Burn them. If you ever dare to wear such forbidden things again, I'll skin you alive. Su Yunyang ran back to the west courtyard in tears. Meanwhile, Mother remained kneeling on the ground until Shen Yi helped her up. Madam, I've let you suffer. Shen Yi's face was full of guilt. Mother shook her head, her eyes slightly red, yet holding back her tears. As long as Master is well, this bit of grievance means nothing to me. It is just... Sister Su is young after all, and doesn't know any better. In the future, she still needs more guidance. I stood off to the side, watching this scene unfold, sneering inwardly. Guidance. Of course she needs guidance. However, what I am going to teach her is how to get herself killed faster. On the third day after Su Yunyang entered the household, she started getting restless. She felt she had lost face at the wedding ceremony, and was eager to regain her standing. And the best way to regain her standing was to seize power. That morning, as soon as Shen Yi left for court, Su Yunyang came to the main courtyard with her belly sticking out. Sister, I see you managing the household affairs every day. It is really hard work. I am feeling better now and would like to help share some of Sister's burden. How about handing over the kitchen purchases or the storeroom keys for me to manage? She sure had the nerve to ask, going straight for the two most lucrative positions right off the bat. Nanny Wang was so angry she was about to start scolding, but Mother stopped her. Mother set down her teacup and looked at Su Yunyang gently. It is good that you have such thoughtfulness, sister. It is just that household management is tedious work. You are pregnant, sister, and if you tire yourself out— Oh, sister, I won't get tired. Su Yunyang hurriedly interrupted Mother. I helped manage accounts back home, too. This little thing won't be a problem for me. At a place like a brothel, all she ever managed was the rouge and powder money for a few girls. How could she know the depths of this Marquis Manor's accounts? Standing to the side, I rolled my eyes and said with a smile, Mother, Since concubine Sue is being so filial, why don't you grant her wish? The kitchen purchasing is the most tedious, requiring early rising and late nights every day. Since concubine Sue wants to manage it, just let her give it a try. If she manages it well, when father comes back and finds out, he'll surely praise concubine Sue for being capable. If she can't manage it well, at worst, mother can just take it back. Su Yunyang's eyes lit up when she heard the words, "Father will praise." She nodded hurriedly. Exactly. The young miss is right. Mother glanced at me, understanding immediately, since Jor says so too. All right then. Mother untied a string of keys from her waist and had Nanny Wang bring over the kitchen account books. The kitchen procurement will be entrusted to you, sister. But let me say the ugly words up front. This is everyone's food, so you absolutely must not be careless. Su Yunyang snatched the keys and left gleefully. She thought what she got was power and easy money. Little did she know, it was a hot potato. The kitchen procurement of this Shen manor had plenty of tricks to it. Those vegetable vendors, those meat suppliers. Which one wasn't connected to the old servants in the manor? Which one wasn't a crafty old fox, who deceived those above and below? Su Yunyang, an outsider completely in the dark, wanted to squeeze silver out of these people. It was simply a fool's dream. Sure enough, within 2 days, the kitchen was in chaos. Su Yunyang thought the previous vegetable vendor charged too much, so she took it upon herself to switch to a cheaper one. As a result, the vegetables delivered had yellow leaves, and the meat wasn't fresh. The food made by the main kitchen tasted absolutely terrible. The servants were full of complaints. What kind of crappy food is this? Even pigs won't eat it. Does that new concubine even know how to manage things? I bet she wants to starve us all so she can pocket the silver herself. These words, naturally, also reached Su Yunyang's ears. She was so furious, she smashed plates and bowls in the west courtyard. These wretched slaves, how dare they gossip about me? I'll have them all sold off. Her outburst only stirred up more resentment. Even the usually docile stable hand dared to spit behind her back. And all of this was exactly as Mother and I had anticipated. What we wanted was to make everyone turn against her. When a mistress loses the fear and respect of her servants, misfortune isn't far behind. Before the kitchen turmoil had even settled, I added more fuel to Su Yunyang's fire. That afternoon, I brought my maid along, carrying a box of newly obtained snail, shell eyebrow dye, and went to the west courtyard. Su Yunyang was fretting over the accounts. The new vegetable vendor was cheaper but always shorted the weight. When she went to argue, they completely ignored her and even mocked her for not knowing the trade. Seeing me come in, she irritably rolled her eyes. How does the young miss have time to visit my shabby place? I pretended not to see her cold face and smilingly placed the snail, shell eyebrow dye on the table. Is concubine Sue still angry about the kitchen matter? Those servants just need to be disciplined. Auntie shouldn't stoop to their level. I came to bring Auntie a gift. I opened the box, revealing the dark, greenish-black eyebrow powder inside. This is Luozi dye, a tribute from Persia. There were only 2 boxes in total, and Father gave them all to Mother. Mother said Auntie has beautiful eyes and brows, and would look even more beautiful with this on. She specially asked me to bring 1 box over. Although Su Yunyang hadn't seen much of the world, she had heard of how precious Luozi dye was. The saying, "worth 1,000 gold," was no exaggeration at all. Her expression softened, and she reached out to touch the eyebrow powder. How thoughtful of your mother. I leaned closer to her, lowered my voice, and said with feigned mystery, "Auntie, actually managing a household isn't about saving money, but about spending it, spending money." Su Yunyang was taken aback. That is right. I spouted nonsense with a straight face. Think about it. Father is about to be promoted, and he'll be associating with high officials and nobles. If our household's food, clothing, and daily expenses are too shabby, wouldn't that make Father lose face? Mother is just too frugal. Sometimes father doesn't say anything, but he is actually unhappy about it. If you could make the household more presentable, even if it costs a bit more silver, father would think you are sensible and capable of keeping up appearances. Su Yunyang listened with a thoughtful expression. She recalled that Shenyi was indeed someone who cared about face. Although there had been a little hiccup during the last wedding ceremony, Shenyi had privately praised the grandeur of it. What you said does make some sense. I struck while the iron was hot. Besides, I heard the brocade from the south has gone up in price. If you could stock up now. And that bird's nest, I heard only the finest blood swallow nests are truly nourishing. You are carrying my little brother now, so naturally you should use the best for food, clothing, and everything else. Father dotes on you so much. Why would he care about this bit of silver? Su Yunyang was swayed by my words. She was vain to the bone. Before, she had no money, but now she held power in her hands, and with my guidance, the seed called greed instantly grew into a towering tree. The young miss is right. I am carrying the Shen family's eldest son in my belly. How can I be mistreated? From that day on, Su Yunyang completely let herself go. She dismissed the previous vegetable vendor and switched to the most expensive Juxian Lu in the capital. All the daily ingredients had to be specially ordered from there. She also had people buy over a dozen bolts of fine cloud brocade, saying it was to make clothes for the child. Even the charcoal in the rooms had to be smokeless silver frost charcoal. These expenses flowed out like water. In just 5 days, she had spent the entire monthly budget for the kitchen. The accountant came running to the main courtyard to find Mother, holding a thick stack of bills with a long face. Madam, please do something about this. With concubines who spending like this, our household's public accounts are going to be emptied out. Mother looked at that shocking figure, yet the corner of her lips curved into a faint smile. She set the bill aside and took a sip of tea. What is the rush? The master hasn't said anything, so how could we servants speak out of turn? Go give her another 500 taels. Let her spend, the more she spends, the better. Su Yunyang's extravagant spending eventually caught Shenyi's attention. That evening, Shenyi looked at the monthly expenses submitted by the accountant, his brow furrowed into a deep frown. What is going on? How is this month's spending more than triple the usual? This bloodbird's nest, cloud brocade. Who bought all this? Although Shenyi doted on Su Yunyang, he was also a man who watched his household finances. With this much silver, if used to grease palms, how many paths could he have paved in the officialdom? Just as the accountant was about to speak up and complain, Su Yunyang walked in carrying a bowl of ginseng soup. Her eyes were red-rimmed. She had obviously heard everything from outside the door. Master, are you blaming Yunyang? She set the ginseng soup on the table, clutching her belly, tears coming on command. Yunyang did all this for our child. The baby has been kicking hard lately. The doctor said I need more nourishment. And that cloud brocade. This concubine was thinking that master has so many social engagements. I wanted to make you some presentable clothes. This concubine's heartfelt intentions. Yet master cares more about the silver. If master doesn't like it, then this concubine simply won't buy anything anymore. It is just, I feel sorry for our child, having to suffer before even being born. This move of pear blossoms bathed in rain plus moral blackmail worked every single time. Shenyi looked at her pitiful appearance, then at her swollen belly. The anger in his heart was instantly doused by more than half. He sighed and pulled Su Yunyang into his arms. All right, I am not blaming you. It is just that the spending was indeed a bit much. Just be more careful in the future. You did it for the child, and for me too. How could I not understand? Su Yunyang broke into a smile through her tears and playfully punched Shenyi. I knew master loved me the most. Shenyi turned his head and waved at the accountant. All right, you may leave. The Shen residents can still afford this bit of silver. The accountant withdrew helplessly. He had worked at the Shen residence for decades and had never seen such a foolish master. And I, hiding behind the screen, watching all of this, the last ripple in my heart finally settled. Father, this is the path you chose yourself. Since you've disregarded even the family estate for the sake of beauty, then don't blame your daughter for being ruthless. Do you think this is just a matter of a few taels of silver? You don't know that the debts Su Yunyang has racked up outside are far more than what is on the books. She used the Shen residence's name to run up tabs at all the major shops. Those shopkeepers, seeing that she was the soon-to-be Marchioness, didn't dare refuse her credit. This mess of bad debts, like a snowball, kept rolling bigger and bigger weight, until the day it collapses. That will be when you, Shen Yi, are utterly ruined. And that day is not far off. Late at night, all was quiet. In the secret room of the main courtyard, only a single oil lamp, dim as a bean, was lit. Mother and I sat facing each other. On the table sat several rosewood boxes, containing land deeds and property deeds the Shen household had accumulated over the years, along with several large banknotes. This was the Shen household's foundation. It was also the capital for Mother and me to establish ourselves in the future. Mother, there isn't much time left. I gazed at the pitch black night outside the window, my voice low. According to the timeline, in 5 more days, Father will set off to manage the floods in the south. Once he leaves, it will be farewell forever. Before he leaves, we must transfer all of these things out. Mother's hands trembled slightly. Although she had already accepted the fact that Father would soon die, when it actually came to this point, she was still somewhat nervous. Juer, with so many assets, once we move them, the master will definitely notice. What if he investigates? He won't have the chance to investigate. I coldly cut off Mother's concerns. Right now his head is full of Su Yunyang and that child, as well as the official position that is about to be his. Besides, we have the perfect excuse. I picked up a land deed. It was for 300 acres of fertile farmland in the outskirts of the capital, one of the Shen household's most valuable assets. Isn't Su Yunyang running up debts outside? We'll use this to make our move. Tomorrow you go find those biggest creditors and have them come to our door demanding repayment. The bigger the commotion, the better. Let Father know that this is a hole he can't fill. At that moment, you step forward and say that to preserve the Shen family's reputation, you are willing to sell off your own dowry to repay your husband's debts. Of course, this is just for show to outsiders. In reality, we'll secretly swap the communal family assets for your dowry, then put these real fertile lands and shops under the names of reliable distant relatives, or convert them into silver notes, and deposit them in maternal grandfather's money house. This move is called substituting the plum for the peach. Mother's eyes lit up as she listened. What a brilliant move! It both ruins Su Yunyang's reputation and makes Master resent her, and also transfers the family assets with full justification. Even if Master discovers it later, by then, he'll already be a dead man. At the end, a ruthless edge crept into Mother's voice. It was the resolve of someone whose heart had been thoroughly broken. There is more, I added. When Father goes to manage the flood control this time, he'll definitely need to bring silver for bribes. You should take the initiative to offer to help him prepare this sum. Sell off all those worthless things in the storeroom or those flashy but impractical things Su Yunyang bought. At a discount, gather together a huge sum for him to take along. Make him feel that at crucial moments, it is still his first wife who is dependable. This way, he will feel at ease handing everything in the household over to you, including that seal that symbolizes the master's authority. Mother took a deep breath and nodded heavily. All right, we'll do as Zhuer says. This time, I will make the Shen family completely change their surname to Liu. The lamplight flickered, illuminating the similar faces of U.S. mother and daughter. Those were 2 faces written full of calculation and ambition. In this man-eating world, Since we can't be flowers that are cherished and protected, then we'll be thorny brambles. Even with hands covered in blood, we must carve out a path of survival for ourselves. The next morning, the gates of the Shen residence were pounded with earth, shaking noise. Not the kind of respectful knocking, but furious pounding filled with anger and the intent to collect debts. Open up now. Paying back debts is only right and proper. Does such a prestigious household still want to cheat us common folk out of our hard-earned money? The gatekeeper was so scared shitless, he ran into the inner courtyard to report. At this moment, Father was preparing to leave for morning court. Hearing this commotion, his face instantly turned as dark as the bottom of a pot. What is going on? Who is making noise outside? The butler handed over a thick stack of bills, trembling with fear. Master, it is the shopkeepers from Jubao Studio, Jingshu Manor, and Byway Tower, in the capital. They're holding IO signed by concubine Sue. And they've come to collect the debts. Father snatched the bills away. After just one glance, his hands began to tremble. 3,000 taels? 5,000 taels? What is this? 10 jin of premium bloodbird's nest? A hue of Dongju pearls? Did she move the entire imperial palace into our home? Father was so furious that he hurled the bills onto the ground. Go, bring that bitch out here. Before long, Su Yuniang was invited out by Granny Wang. She was still wearing her sleepwear that she hadn't had time to change out of. Eyes drowsy, looking completely bewildered. Master, what is wrong? It is so early in the morning. Why are you so angry? Without a word, Father walked up and slapped her across the face. Slap. This slap was extremely hard. It sent Su Yuniang staggering and falling to the ground, blood seeping from the corner of her mouth. You still have the nerve to ask what is wrong? Take a good look at what you've done. Father pointed at the bills on the ground and roared. It has only been a few days, and you've already racked up over 10,000 taels of silver on credit. Are you trying to bankrupt our Shen family? Or do you want the censorate to impeach me, accusing me of corruption and extravagance? Su Yuniang covered her face and looked at those bills, finally panicking. She didn't expect those shopkeepers would actually dare to come to the door. They had clearly agreed back then to settle the accounts at the end of the year. How come it has only been a few days? She didn't know that the reason those shopkeepers were so anxious was because I had casually let someone leak a piece of news. Lord Shen was about to be transferred out of the capital, and this Shen residence would soon be nothing but an empty shell. Merchants have the keenest sense of smell. Upon hearing this, how could they sit still? Naturally, they scrambled over each other to come collect their debts. Su Yuniang cried as she hugged Father's leg. Master, I didn't know. I really didn't know. They said I could buy on credit, so I just wanted to give the child the best. Get off, Father kicked her away. At that moment, the commotion outside the door grew louder and louder. It even attracted quite a few passers-by to gather and watch. What is going on at this Shen residence? I heard some mistress moved in and squandered all the family's wealth. Atska TSK. What a misfortune for this household. Father listened to the gossip outside, his face deathly pale. His career, his reputation, about to be ruined by this stupid woman. Just then, Mother made her entrance. Mother wasn't wearing her usual fine silk garments. She wore a half-worn plain dress, with only a wooden hairpin in her hair. She looked thin and haggard, yet exuded an awe-inspiring, inviolable air of righteousness. She walked to Father's side and gently held his trembling hand. Master, don't panic. Since the matter has happened, it must be resolved. The creditors are still waiting outside. If this commotion continues and disturbs His Majesty, that would be bad. Father looked at Mother as if grasping at a life-saving straw. Madam, what do you think we should do? Over 10,000 taels of silver. Where can the household funds produce that? Me salary was used to fill the gap long ago. Mother sighed, a flash of resolve passing through her eyes. Rest assured, Master, the Shen family's reputation must not be ruined. This concubine still has a few shops and several hundred acres of good farmland from when I married. That is this concubine's dowry. I originally wanted to save it for Jouer as her wedding gift. When Mother said this, she glanced at me standing nearby, her eyes reddening. But now that the family has fallen into trouble, we can't afford to worry about that anymore. This concubine will have someone sell those properties right away, exchange them for silver, and pay off the debts first. Upon hearing this, Father's eyes widened in shock. Madam, that is your dowry. In the great Zhou dynasty, using one's wife's dowry to pay debts was a man's greatest shame. But Mother shook her head and smiled sadly. The dowry is dead, but people are alive. As long as my husband is well, as long as the Shen family is well, what does this bit of worldly possession of mine matter? Saying this, Mother took out a stack of land deeds from her sleeve and handed them to the steward who had long been waiting nearby. Go find someone reliable and sell them quickly. It must be fast. We can't let those creditors make trouble again. The steward took the land deeds and ran out in a hurry. Father looked at Mother's now empty hands, and tears finally couldn't help but flow down. He pulled Mother into a tight embrace, crying bitterly. Wife, I've wronged you. I, Shen Yi, was truly blind, throwing away a pearl to pick up that dead fish eye. He turned his head and glared viciously at Su Yunyang, who had collapsed on the ground. Starting today, get back to the west courtyard and stay confined. Without my permission, you are not allowed to take a single step out. If you dare spend another cent, I'll sell you off. Su Yunyang was so scared she trembled all over, and was dragged away by Nanny Wang, stumbling and crawling. A storm seemed to have subsided just like that. Father felt he owed Mother, and became even more obedient to her every word. But what he didn't know was, the dowry that Mother had just handed over had actually been swapped out by me long ago. Those were just a few pieces of worthless wasteland in remote areas, and the money the steward took out to sell was also private savings that Mother and I had prepared long ago. We used this money to buy the most profitable shops under the Shen family's public assets at Rock. Bottom prices. The buyer's name written down was my cousin's. In reality, all the deeds would eventually end up in my hands. This trick of moving from left hand to right hand not only won Mother the glorious reputation of sacrificing the family fortune to relieve hardship. It also naturally turned the Shen family's prime assets into our private property. As for that debt of over 10,000 taels, it was indeed truly repaid, just using Shen Yi's future money to pay off Su Yunyang's current debts. After all, keeping that money would only benefit others in the end. Better to spend it all clean now, though the family scandal was covered up by Mother using her dowry. But what I wanted was more than just Su Yunyang falling out of favor. I wanted her utterly ruined, with no chance of ever making a comeback. Father was about to be promoted, and these few days were a critical time. He specifically invited that upright and incorruptible censor Zhang to the residence as a guest, hoping to build connections while showing off his well-managed household. After all, Mother's reputation as a virtuous wife was now quite renowned outside. I had also specially prepared a good show for this day. After several rounds of wine, Father took Censor Zhang for a stroll in the garden. Censor Zhang was someone who couldn't tolerate any wrongdoing. As he walked, he praised, "Brother Shen, I heard that your wife sold even her dowry to pay off your debts. Such a virtuous wife who understands the greater good, truly Brother Shen's blessing." Shen Yi looked both ashamed and proud. "Not at all, not at all. It is my wife who is virtuous." As the two were talking, they suddenly heard a sharp screaming and cursing coming from the pavilion ahead. "You bunch of dog slaves! How dare you give me this kind of food? I am a noble lady carrying a child. The future Marchioness. Take this rotten food away. I want bird's nest. I want shark fin." That was Su Yunyang's voice. She had been confined to the west courtyard, so naturally, her meals had been downgraded. Plus, I had deliberately arranged for someone to tamper with her food, just reheating the leftovers before sending them over. How could she possibly stand such mistreatment? Taking advantage of the gatekeeper granny dozing off, she had run out and was now throwing a tantrum in the garden. With her hair disheveled and clothes in disarray, she was pointing at several maids and cursing like a madwoman. Completely gone was her usual delicate and coquettish demeanor. Censor Zhang's footsteps stopped. His brows furrowed tightly. Brother Shen, this is Shen Yi's face instantly turned the color of pig liver. He had calculated everything, but never expected this crazy woman would run out. Before he could even explain, Su Yunyang spotted Shen Yi. Her eyes lit up, thinking her savior had come. She actually rushed over recklessly and grabbed onto Shen Yi's thigh. Master, you've finally come. You have to stand up for me, that Liu woman, that vicious woman. She is trying to starve me and the child to death. Look at what she has been feeding me. It is worse than pig slop. Su Yunyang cried while wiping her filthy hands all over Shen Yi. A sour stench hit them in the face. Censor Zhang instinctively stepped back 2 paces and covered his nose. His eyes were filled with contempt and shock. Brother Shen. This is that pregnant mistress. The woman who was elevated to equal wife. Shen Yi wished he could find a crack in the ground to crawl into. He kicked Su Yunyang away and roared, "Someone drag this crazy woman away. Gag her mouth." Several rough servant women rushed up and dragged Su Yunyang away like a dead dog. But Su Yunyang's shrill screams and curses still echoed in the garden. "Shen Yi, you heartless bastard. Have you forgotten what you said when we were in bed? You said that yellow-faced hag Lady Liu should have died long ago." This one sentence completely sealed Shen Yi's death sentence. Censor Zhang's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He looked coldly at Shen Yi and left with a flick of his sleeve. "Lord Shen, this drink today I am not fortunate enough to enjoy. Cultivate oneself, regulate the family, govern the state, bring peace to the world." Lord Shen can't even manage his own household. How can he speak of managing floods? I shall go back now to write a memorial and report this matter to His Majesty. Watching Censor Zhang's departing figure, Shen Yi collapsed limply onto the ground. It is over. It is all over. Censor Zhang was true to his word. The next day, rumors about the Shen household, favoring the concubine over the wife, domestic turmoil. The mistress gone mad, spread throughout the entire capital. Although His Majesty, considering that Shen Yi still had flood control duties ahead, didn't punish him immediately. But he summoned him to the imperial study and gave him a harsh scolding, and warned him that if anything went wrong with the flood control again, he'd be punished for both offenses together. Shen Yi returned home looking utterly dejected. Now, all he had left for Su Yunyang was bone, deep hatred. If it weren't for her, how could he have lost so much face? How could he be unable to hold his head up in front of his colleagues? Su Yunyang had completely fallen out of favor. She was locked in a run-down room in the west courtyard, and aside from 2 meals of plain food a day, she received no special treatment whatsoever. The servants in the household were the best at adjusting their attitude based on one's status. Before, when Su Yunyang was in favor, they'd respectfully call her yin-yang with every breath. Now, whenever they passed by the west courtyard, they'd spit inside. "Puptui, what a piece of trash." She made the master get scolded by His Majesty, made the madam sell her dowry. This jinx. Why isn't she dead yet? Su Yunyang listened to these words from inside the room. So angry she was going mad. She wanted to smash things, but the room was empty, without even a decent cup. She wanted to hang herself, but Nanny Wang had long since had the sashes removed from the rafters. We kept her like this, like raising a pig waiting for slaughter. Let her wait for the final judgment in despair and fear. Meanwhile, Mother had become a paragon praised throughout the entire capital. The madams of various noble families sent invitations one after another, inviting Mother to enjoy flowers and tea. While consoling Mother, they also spread the Shen family's dirty laundry even further. Oh my, Madame Shen really has had it so hard. Stuck with such a muddle-headed man, and such a shameless concubine too. If I were her, I would have divorced long ago. Madame Shen is truly magnanimous, enduring it all for the children, for the Shen family. Mother always smiled faintly, never saying a single bad word about Shen Yi. She only said her fate was bitter, with no complaints or regrets. This demeanor earned her even more sympathy and respect from countless people. Even the Empress Dowager in the palace heard about it, and specially bestowed a jade ruyi praising Mother as virtuous and graceful. With this protective talisman, Mother's position in the Shen residence was now rock solid. Even if Shen Yi wanted to touch Mother now, he'd have to think twice about the Empress Dowager's face. 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. The day of Shen Yi's departure arrived. This farewell was completely different from the previous life. In the previous life, Shen Yi left full of spirit, carrying hopes for the future. But this time, he left covered in exhaustion, shame, and fear for his future. The night before his departure, he came to the main courtyard. Mother was packing his luggage. The box was filled with clothes and shoes that Mother had rushed to make overnight, along with various medicinal herbs for protection. There was even a stack of silver notes. That was the little money left from Mother selling off her dowry. Master, being away from home is not like being at home. Take this silver with you. Travel rich even from a poor home. Don't let yourself suffer. If you encounter any difficulties, just write a letter home. This concubine will pray for Master day and night at home. Shen Yi looked at those things, then at Mother's gentle profile under the lamplight. In his heart, an unprecedented wave of regret surged up. He grasped Mother's hand, his voice choked with emotion. Madam, I was wrong. I shouldn't have listened to that bitch's slander, and I shouldn't have hurt your feelings. This time when I go to manage the flood, I'll definitely do a good job. When I return with merit, I'll definitely petition for a noble title for you. From now on in this household, only you have the final say. As he spoke, he took out a small rosewood box from his chest. It was the Shen family's master seal. It was also the key to controlling all of the Shen family's assets and connections. Before, this was something he never let leave his person. Take this. While I am away, all matters big and small at home are entirely for you to decide. That Su Yunyang, if she gives birth to a son, spare him. If she gives birth to a daughter, do as you see fit. Shen Yi shoved the box into his mother's hands, as if it were his last bit of trust. Mother took the box, her hands trembling slightly, but she quickly steadied herself. Rest assured, my lord, I will surely guard this household well, and await your return. I watched this scene from behind the screen, a cold smile curling at the corner of my lips. Father, rest easy. We'll guard this household well. It is just that this household won't bear the Shen name anymore, and you will never come back. This seal is the last inheritance you left us. Early the next morning, before dawn, Shen Yi led his convoy out through the city gates slowly, with Mother seeing him off. He kept looking back, gazing at Mother and me standing in the cold wind, his eyes full of reluctance to part. But he didn't know. Those were our gazes sending him off to his death. The wheels rumbled on, stirring up clouds of dust, heading toward his destined death. The moment Father left, I had the gates of the Marquise's mansion shut right behind him. That vermilion gate blocked the outside world's view, and also sealed off some people's path to survival. The seal Father left behind now lay in Mother's palm, emanating a cold gleam of power. Mother, now you truly have the final say in this household. I stood on the steps, watching the servants in the courtyard, each with different expressions on their faces. Among them, Quite a few had been promoted after Su Yunying entered the household. And some were fence sitters who saw which way the wind was blowing and wanted to please both sides. Mother stroked that seal, the gentleness in her eyes gradually fading, replaced by the authority of the head wife. Pass on my orders. Those maids and servants attending concubine Su in the west courtyard. Since they couldn't keep their mistress in line, keeping them around is just a waste of food. Sell them all off. Sell them far away, preferably to those coal mining pits. Never let me see them again. As soon as this order was given, the courtyard erupted in cries. Those wicked servants who usually bullied others by riding on Su Yunyang's coattails were now kowtowing and begging for mercy one by one. Spare us, madam. This servant knows her wrongs. Have mercy, madam. Mother didn't even lift an eyelid. Steward Liu, why haven't you started yet? Steward Liu, who had always been loyal and devoted, had long been holding back his frustration. The moment he heard the order, he immediately waved his hand and charged forward with several burly servants. Gag them, drag them away. In less than half an hour, the west courtyard had been cleaned out completely. Only Su Yunyang remained, all alone, keeping watch over that empty room. I wasn't idle either. Holding the household register, I picked out one by one those in the household who loved to gossip and had sticky fingers. Granny Zhang stole 3 caddies of candles from the storeroom. 20 strikes with the paddle. Throw her out. Lier secretly colluded with outside gambling dens, leaked information from the residents, hand him over to the authorities. Zhao Si. That day, the back gate of the Shen residence never stayed closed. Batch after batch of people were driven out, and batch after batch of new servants with clean backgrounds who had signed death contracts were bought in. By evening, the entire atmosphere of the Shen residence had been completely transformed. Everyone held their breath and kept silent, not daring to make the slightest sound even when walking. Because they knew, the heavens of the Shen residence had changed. That madam who had once been as meek as a lamb, once she bared her fangs, was more terrifying than a tiger. And I stood behind Mother, like a calm young tiger, learning how to tear prey apart with claws and fangs. With the inner courtyard purged, what came next was waiting. Waiting for that death notice destined to arrive. But this didn't mean we could sit idle. In the most secluded side room of the main courtyard, Mother and I were hurrying to make clothes. Not bright silks and satins, but plain white hemp cloth and coarse mourning garments. In a wealthy household that valued auspiciousness, this was an absolute taboo. If anyone discovered it, calling it cursing one's own husband wouldn't be an exaggeration. But the needle and thread in Mother's hands moved with perfect steadiness. Juer, is it really just a matter of these few days? Mother asked in a low voice, her tone betraying neither grief nor joy. I snipped off a loose thread and nodded. In my previous life, it was at this very moment. The great flood in Jiangnan, plague running rampant. Father was eager for quick success, wanting to show off before the emperor, ignoring all warnings and going deep into the epidemic zone. As a result, he caught the plague and didn't last 3 days before passing. At this point, I stopped the work in my hands and looked at the overcast sky outside the window. Counting the days, it is only a matter of 2 or 3 days now. Mother's hand paused for a moment. She looked at the mourning clothes in her hands that were almost finished. They were made for Shen Yi, and also for ourselves. That is fine. Mother let out a long sigh. The sooner he dies, the sooner he reincarnates. He can be considered to have gotten what he wished for. We didn't just prepare mourning clothes. We also secretly had people buy large quantities of white candles and joss paper. I even drafted the elegiac couplets for the mourning hall in advance. All of this was hidden in that side room, locked up tight. Just waiting for that news to arrive. Then we could transform this bright red Shen manor into a sea of white mourning in the shortest time possible. We wanted everyone to see how swift the Shen manor's reaction was, how profound the Shen manor's grief was. Before the news of death arrived, we still needed to do one last thing, and that was to pray for blessings. On this day, Mother took me, along with a grand procession of maids and servants, to Fahua Temple, the temple with the most incense offerings in the capital. We were going to pray for the safety of Father, who was far away in Jiangnan managing the floods. Mother wore plain white clothes without any makeup, kowtowing every 3 steps, kneeling all the way from the mountain gate to the main hall. Her forehead was scraped raw, blood seeping through. Her knees were swollen from kneeling. She couldn't even walk steadily, but she still persisted, making her wish before the Buddha with a devout expression. This humble devotee Liu is willing to give up 10 years of my lifespan in exchange for my husband Shen Yi's safe return. This scene moved countless worshippers, and it happened to be witnessed by several noble ladies who came to the temple to burn incense. Among them was the wife of Censor Zhang. Oh my, Madame Shen is truly devoted and righteous. Although Lord Shen is muddle-headed, he was blessed with such a good wife. This is the demeanor of a proper first wife. Madame Zhang helped up my mother, who was on the verge of collapse, her eyes full of admiration and pity. Mother leaned weakly against the maidservant, still murmuring, "As long as my lord can get better, I am willing to do anything." I stood to the side, wiping away tears that didn't exist. But inside, I was sneering coldly. "Mother, you were indeed making a wish, but the wish you made was probably for him to die out there sooner, so he won't come back to torment us. Right? If Buddha truly has a spirit, he'd probably be won over by our acting skills." This prayer ceremony became the last straw that crushed public opinion. Now, the entire capital knows that Madame Shen nearly gave up her life for that heartless man. If Shen Yi really died, then Mother would be a rightful, virtuous widow. Anyun, who dared to bully a widow and orphan at this time, would be making an enemy of all the morals under heaven. The night we came back from Fahua Temple, a violent rainstorm poured from the sky. Streaks of lightning tore through the night sky, as if some kind of ominous omen. I stood under the corridor, watching that curtain of rain filling the sky. I knew it was over. That man should have already breathed his last. The morning 3 days later, a flurry of urgent hoofbeats broke the tranquility of the capital. A courier dressed in white, riding a fast horse, came straight toward the Shen residence. Report. Urgent dispatch from Jiangnan. That shrill voice pierced through layers of courtyard walls, stabbing straight into the heart. Mother, who was having breakfast in the main hall, dropped her chopsticks to the ground with a clatter. She abruptly stood up, her face instantly turning deathly pale. Although she had long been mentally prepared, but when this moment truly arrived, that instinctive bodily reaction still couldn't fool anyone. No matter what, that was still the person she had called husband for 20 years. I also stood up, supporting Mother's tottering body. "Mother, it is here. Get ready." The butler came stumbling in, falling to his knees before he even entered the door. "Madam, madam, the master, what happened to him?" Mother rushed over, gripping the butler's collar tightly. The butler wept bitterly. "The master caught the plague at the dam. 3 days ago. He is gone." Boom. It was as if a thunderclap exploded overhead. Mother's eyes rolled back, and her body collapsed limply. "Mother," I let out a shrill scream and threw myself forward to catch Mother. "Simone, get the doctor quickly. Mother has fainted." The entire Shen manor instantly descended into chaos. Crying, shouting, footsteps, all intertwined together. And amidst this chaos, I was terrifyingly calm. While pressing Mother's philtrum, I shot a glance at Steward Liu, who had long been waiting on standby. Steward Liu understood, wiped his tears, turned and ran toward that locked side room. A quarter of an hour later, when Mother slowly came to and began wailing loudly, the entire Shen manor was already covered with white mourning banners. The mourning hall had been set up in an instant, All the servants had changed into mourning clothes that had been prepared long ago. This speed was so fast that even the courier who came to deliver the death notice was dumbfounded. He simply assumed the Shen manor ran a tight household. Little did they know, all of this was a script we had carefully planned. My dear husband, Mother lay prostrate before the mourning hall, crying her heart out. That grief was real, grieving that her 20 years of youth had been fed to the dogs, grieving that her devoted love had been exchanged for nothing. She wanted to shed all the tears of her lifetime dry today. From this day forward, there would be no more weak Lady Liu in this world. Only the iron-hearted matriarch of the Shen family. News of Shen Yi's death spread through the capital as if it had grown wings. The emperor's decree came down quickly. In recognition of Shen Yi's death in the line of duty, he was posthumously titled Marquis of Loyalty, bestowed 1,000 taels of gold, and his son was permitted to inherit the title. This imperial decree was both an honor and a death warrant. Because the 4 characters his son inherits the title did not specify anyone by name. Shen Yi had no sons. The only son was still in Shu Yunyan's belly. This made the clan elders of the Shen family smell blood. That afternoon, all the Shen family's various aunts and distant relatives, along with those clan elders who normally couldn't be reached with a 10-foot pole, all showed up. They came under the banner of paying condolences. But in reality, they were here to carve up the spoils. In the main hall, the atmosphere was heavy. Mother, dressed in full mourning white, knelt before the altar burning paper offerings. Third Grand. Uncle sat in the seat of honor, leaning on his cane, his greedy eyes scanning the surroundings. Niece, in-law, the dead cannot come back to life. You must restrain your grief. What is most important right now is the continuation of the Shen family bloodline. Although Shen Yi is gone, the noble title cannot be cut off. We don't even know if the child in Madame Sue's belly is a boy or girl. If she gives birth to a girl, wouldn't the title have no one to inherit it? In my opinion, why not adopt a boy from the clan and register him under your name? This way, the title is preserved, and you'll have someone to rely on in the future. The fox's tail has finally shown itself. Adoption. Sounds nice when you put it that way. Actually, they just want to plant their own person in the Shen manor to slowly devour the Shen family's fortune. Mother didn't speak, just kept throwing paper money into the brazier. The firelight reflected off her ice-cold face, seeing that Mother didn't make a sound. Third Grand. Uncle thought she was scared and shot a glance at a middle-aged man beside him. The man immediately stepped forward. He was Third Grand, Uncle's grandson, also a good, for-nothing dandy. Auntie, I am your nephew Shen Gui from. Now on, I'll take care of you till the end. Just rest assured, saying this, he was about to step forward to help Mother up. Just as his hand was about to touch Mother, I, who had been kneeling beside her all along, suddenly stood up slap. I fiercely swatted his hand away. Impudent, this shout was crisp and loud, stunning everyone in the hall. Shen Gui was stunned. You little girl, you dare hit me. I looked at him coldly, my gaze sharp as a blade. This is a mourning hall. This is my father's funeral altar. You people, his body isn't even cold yet, and you are already scheming over the family fortune and title here. Have you no conscience? Third Grand. Uncle's beard trembled with rage. Mingzu, is that how you speak to your elders? Elders? I let out a cold laugh. When my father was alive, why didn't I see any of you elders coming to offer your care and concern? Now that he is dead, and the imperial edict has just been issued. You couldn't wait to rush over. Want to adopt an heir. Want to inherit the title. Dream on. I turned around and picked up that rosewood box from the offering table. It was the seal that Shen Yi had entrusted to Mother before he left. It was also the token of the Marquis manor bestowed by His Majesty. Before Father left, he had already entrusted this household to Mother. His Majesty's decree also stated clearly, his son shall inherit the title. The child in concubine Su's belly is father's only flesh and blood. Whether it is born a boy or a girl, that is up to heaven. If it is a boy, naturally, he will inherit the title. If it is a girl, I paused for a moment, my gaze sweeping over everyone present, finally landing on Mother. Mother slowly stood up. She wiped away the tear stains from the corners of her eyes, her gaze becoming incredibly resolute. If it is a girl, then I will petition His Majesty to temporarily revoke this title. When Mingzhu takes in alive, in husband in the future, gives birth to a child, and changes the surname back to Shen, the family line will continue. Whoever dares to think about adoption will have to step over my dead body. These words were spoken with resounding conviction, blocking everyone's path completely. Third Grand, Uncle's face turned livid with rage. You are trying to end the Shen family line. Whether the line ends or not, Grand Uncle needn't worry about that, Mother said coldly. Summonon, see the guests out. Today we only discuss funeral matters, not family affairs. The servants, already dressed in mourning clothes, marched in uniformly with clubs in hand. They were the most loyal ones Mother had kept after purging the inner court. Facing these fierce servants, the clan elders were unwilling, but could only leave while cursing under their breath. Watching their retreating figures, I knew this was only the first wave of attack. The real tough battle was still ahead. Meanwhile, in that rundown room in the west courtyard, Su Yunyang also heard the news. She rubbed her belly, a crazed gleam flickering in her eyes. Dead? Good that he is dead. Now that he is dead, my son will be the only marquis. I am going to turn my life around too. She didn't know. Her dream of turning her life around was destined to be a nightmare. The white candles in the morning hall had burned halfway down, the wax dripping like blood, winding its way down the candlesticks. Tonight was the first seventh night. By custom, a vigil must be kept. Mother had already knelt until her knees went numb, and had been helped away by Nanny Wang to rest. In the vast morning hall, only I remained, along with a few maidservants on rotation, and that pitch, black, empty coffin. The wind outside the window wailed, as if someone were weeping. From the west courtyard, shrill laughter drifted over faintly. That was Su Yunyang. She thought that with Shen Yi dead, she and the child in her belly would be this Marquis Manor's greatest hope. So even though she was confined, she couldn't contain the ecstasy of soon rising through her son's status. The Marquis, my son will be the Marquis. This laughter in the silent night was bone, chilling to hear. The maid-servant Xiaokui shrank her neck in fright. Young Miss has concubine Su gone mad. I tossed a stack of joss paper into the brazier, the firelight illuminating my expressionless face. Mad? If she truly went mad, that would be her good fortune. I stood up, walked to the entrance of the morning hall, and looked toward the west courtyard. Too bad. She is more lucid than anyone. She is dreaming of soaring to the heavens in a single leap. Just then, a dark figure slipped silently over the wall. It was the person Steward Liu had sent to monitor the west courtyard. He quickly walked to my side and whispered a few words in my ear. Eldest Miss, concubine Su, just secretly called the watchwoman over and slipped her a gold bracelet. That was her private stash hidden in her shoe sole. She asked the woman to go outside and buy her abortion medicine. I raised an eyebrow. Abortion medicine? Doesn't she want to give birth to a son to inherit the title? Why would she buy that? The person said in a low voice. It is not for herself. She wants to frame the madam. I understood instantly. What a brilliant self-inflicted wound scheme. Su Yunyang wanted to use the child in her belly as a bargaining chip. If she took the medicine and miscarried, she could insist that Mother couldn't tolerate a bastard son and struck right after the master died. When that happened, Mother would bear the reputation of a vicious woman, and might even be cast out by the clan. As for her, though she'd lose the child as long as she brought down Mother, she as the sole victim combined with Shen Yi's favor when he was alive, might actually turn things around and become the mistress. What a ruthless heart! For wealth and glory, she could even sacrifice her own flesh and blood. Eldest miss, should we capture that woman? I shook my head, a cold smile curling at the corner of my lips. Number let her go by it. Make sure the shopkeeper at Huishan Hall remembers her. The person was stunned for a moment, then understood my meaning, a trace of awe flashing in their eyes. Yes, this humble one will go handle it right away. Su Yunyang. Oh, Su Yunyang. You want to play the blame game? Then I'll play along, on a much bigger scale. I am gonna show you what reaping what you sow really means. Early the next morning, the clan members came again. This time, they weren't just here to offer condolences. They also brought several unfamiliar women, claiming they were here to take care of the pregnant concubine Su. Clearly, they were also afraid Mother would harm the unborn Marquise. Third Grand, Uncle spoke in a passive, aggressive tone as soon as he entered. Niece-in-law, though this morning hall is cold, don't forget the west courtyard is still nice and warm. That is the only bloodline of the Shen family. There must be no mishaps. These matrons were all carefully selected by the clan, most skilled at tending to pregnant women. Let them go serve at the west courtyard. Mother was about to refuse, but I agreed before she could. Grand, Uncle is right. Mother has been too grief-stricken these past few days and truly can't manage everything. Since Grand, Uncle is so kind-hearted. Let them go. Mother gave me a puzzled look, but I gave her a reassuring glance. Those matrons strutted off to the west courtyard with their noses in the air. When Su Yunyang saw them, she thought her rescuers had arrived and immediately started crying about Mother's mistreatment. Mamas, you've finally come. That vicious woman fed me spoiled food and wants to harm my child. When the matrons heard this, how could they let it slide? They immediately wanted to go out and settle the score with Mother. Just then, one of the matrons suddenly let out a startled cry. Oh my, what is this? She found a paper package under Su Yunyang's pillow. Opening it, inside was a packet of dark red powder. It was precisely the abortion medicine that the bribed old woman had bought last night. Safflower powder. The old woman who knew medicine cried out, "This is a deadly poison. If you take it, forget about the child. Even the mother would die." Su Yunyang saw this. The show had begun. She immediately threw herself onto the ground, wailing loudly. I knew it. I knew she wanted to harm me. The gatekeeper old woman delivered this yesterday, saying it was a pregnancy. Stabilizing medicine bestowed by the madam. Thank goodness. I didn't take it. Otherwise, my child. Her crying threw the entire west courtyard into chaos. Third Grand, Uncle heard the commotion and rushed over with a group of clan elders. Seeing that packet of safflower powder, Third Grand, Uncle was so furious he nearly passed out. Lady Liu, what a vicious heart you have. How dare you plot to harm the Shen family's heir? Someone tie up this vicious woman, send her to the authorities. Facing the accusations from all sides, Mother stood in place, her face pale, yet her back remained straight. I didn't. If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Hemp. With witnesses and evidence all present, you still dare deny it. Su Yunyang pointed at the gatekeeper old woman and shouted, Speak! Wasn't it the madam who had you deliver it? The old woman fell to her knees with a thud, her whole body trembling. Yes, just when everyone thought Mother was done for, I stepped forward, holding a prescription in my hand. Wait, Grand, Uncle. Whether this medicine was sent by Mother, wouldn't we know by asking at the pharmacy? All the pharmacies in the capital keep records for purchases of safflower. Which shop was this medicine bought from? Who bought it? What time was it bought? A simple inquiry will reveal all. Third Grand. Uncle snorted coldly. Fine, investigate then. He had someone take the medicine to the largest pharmacies in the capital. Half an hour later, the shopkeeper of Huichun Hall was brought over. He glanced at the gatekeeper woman kneeling on the ground, then looked at the package of medicine. This medicine was indeed sold from our shop, however. The shopkeeper glanced at Su Yunyang, hesitating to speak. "Third grand," Uncle said urgently. "However what? Speak." The shopkeeper took out a slip from inside his robe. However, the person who came to buy the medicine wasn't this old woman, but a young maidservant. She said she was a personal maidservant of concubine Su from the West Courtyard, named Xiaohong. She said concubine Su didn't want this child anymore, wanted to abort it and elope with another man. As soon as these words came out, the whole room was in an uproar. Su Yunyang was struck as if by lightning and screamed, "Nonsense. You are talking nonsense. Xiaohong was sold off long ago. How could she possibly go buy medicine?" The shopkeeper looked innocent. This old man wouldn't know about that. Anyway, that is what the maid said. And she even gave 10 taels of silver as hush money. There is her signature and fingerprint right here on this receipt. Third grand. Uncle took the receipt with trembling hands. On it was clearly pressed a bright red fingerprint, with the characters Xiaohong written crookedly beside it. Actually, the one who went to buy the medicine really wasn't that old servant woman. I had another maid go pretending to be Xiaohong. As for that gatekeeper woman, I had already turned her back to my side long ago. At this moment, she suddenly changed her tune and cried out that she was wronged. "Third grand, Uncle, please see clearly. This medicine wasn't brought in by this servant at all." This servant saw with her own eyes. It was concubine Su herself, who took it out from her clothes and hid it under the pillow. She was trying to frame the madam. The situation reversed in an instant. Third grand. Uncle's gaze at Su Yunyang shifted from anger to suspicion, and finally to disgust. "Fine. What a wicked woman. So you wanted to abort the child yourself, and frame the mistress for it. You even wanted to elope with some wild man, drag her out, punish her with the family rules." Su Yunyang collapsed limply on the ground, looking at me in despair. She saw that victorious smile at the corner of my lips. She finally understood. From the very beginning, this was never her game. It was mine. Su Yunyang was dragged out into the courtyard. Several burly servants raised the paddles. Shrill, agonizing screams pierced the sky. But it wasn't over yet. She had been frightened and beaten, and suddenly her belly began to ache violently. A stream of fresh blood flowed down along her skirt. "Oh no, she is going into labor," an experienced old woman shouted. When third grand, Uncle heard this, although he hated her, he still couldn't bear to lose that child. "Quick, carry her inside. We must save the child." After a flurry of chaos, Su Yunyang was carried back into the room. The midwife went in and out, basin after basin of bloody water being carried out. Mother stood in the courtyard, watching all of this coldly. She didn't go in to help, nor did she have anyone stop it. She just waited quietly, waiting for the final outcome. An hour later, from inside the room came the faint sound of a baby crying. "It is born. The baby's born." The midwife ran out holding a swaddled bundle. Third great. Uncle excitedly rushed over. "Is it a boy or a girl?" The midwife's expression was somewhat strange. Reporting to third great uncle, "It is a young master, wonderful." Third great. Uncle was overjoyed. "The Shen family has an heir, but..." The midwife hesitated for a moment, then lifted a corner of the swaddling cloth. "This child, something's not right." Everyone gathered around to look. They saw the infant's whole body was bluish. Purple, only breathing in, not breathing out. The most terrifying thing was, on his forehead, there was actually a birthmark. Its shape looked exactly like a rat. This, third great, Uncle was stunned. Shenyi didn't have any birthmarks, neither did Su Yunyang, but that capital city hooligan scoundrel San, who was rumored to have had a fling with Su Yunyang, had a rat-shaped mark right on his forehead. Rumors sometimes spread faster than knives. The rumors I had spread before about Su Yunyang's improper affairs now had ironclad proof. In the face of this birthmark. Bastard. This is a bastard. Third great. Uncle trembled with rage, and with one swing of his cane knocked the swaddled bundle from the midwife's hands. That poor baby fell to the ground, wailed twice, and then went silent. Su Yunyang heard the commotion from inside the room. She struggled to crawl to the doorway, saw the dead infant on the ground, and let out a desperate shriek. My child. Then, she completely passed out. Actually, that birthmark was pressed on by the midwife, whose hands I had someone coat with special pigment. And the reason that child was so weak was because Su Yunyang had been in a state of extreme terror and anxiety throughout her pregnancy. Plus those seasonings. I had someone add to her food. Premature and frail, he wouldn't have lived long anyway. Now with third grand. Uncle's throw, he died on the spot. All of this was within my calculations, cruel perhaps. But in this kind of man-eating family struggle, when cutting weeds, you must pull out the roots. When Su Yunyang woke up, she was already in the firewood shed. Not only had she lost her son, she was also branded with the crimes of adultery and tainting the bloodline. For a woman, this was a punishment worse than death. Third grand, Uncle convened a clan assembly. In front of Shenyi's memorial hall, he publicly announced Su Yunyang's crimes. The woman Su failed to uphold wifely virtues, defiled the family's honor, and attempted to pass off a bastard as Shen family blood. Her crimes are heinous, unforgivable by heaven. From this day forth, the woman Su is expelled from the Shen family. Shenyi has no heir, the title will be set aside for now. Wait until there is a suitable son among the Shen family's side branches, then proceed with the adoption. Third grand, Uncle hated Su Yunyang, but he still harbored greedy intentions toward the Shen family's assets. Without Su Yunyang's son, he set his sights on adoption again. But Mother didn't give him another chance this time. She stood up and took out a scroll of bright yellow imperial edict from her sleeve. That was what Mother had obtained after Father's death, using that seal along with Censor Zhang's help, entering the palace overnight to request it. His Majesty has decreed. Mother's voice was clear and bright, echoing above the morning hall. Madame Shen Enfei Liu is virtuous and gracious, sacrificing her family's fortune to relieve the nation's difficulties. Loyal to the country. She is specially granted the title of first rank noble lady. Shen Yi has no son. His daughter Shen Mingju is permitted to take in a Xora local husband and inherit the noble title. If a son is born, he shall take the surname Shen, continuing the family line. So it is decreed. This imperial edict completely shattered all of third grand. Uncle's fantasies. A Xora local marriage. Shen Mingju inheriting the title. Though rare in the Great Zhou dynasty, it wasn't without precedent. As long as His Majesty nodded, it was ironclad law. Third grand. Uncle looked at that scroll of imperial edict, then at Mother with her dignified expression, and at me standing beside Mother with a cold gaze. He finally understood. The situation was lost. This Shen family would truly belong to this mother and daughter from now on. He knelt down tremblingly and kowtowed once. This commoner accepts the decree. With this kneel from third grand uncle, the other clan members also knelt down one after another. Greetings to the lady of imperial decree. Greetings to the young miss. The voices surged like waves, shaking the entire Shen residence. I looked at the sea of dark heads before me. There was no wild joy in my heart, only a weariness of dust finally settling. This journey had been full of bloodshed, every step fraught with peril. But we won. We protected our dignity, protected our family fortune, protected our future. Su Yunyang still died in the end. On a night when wind and snow raged together, she went mad, set the woodshed on fire, and burned herself to death inside. The flames shot into the sky, casting a red glow over half of the Shen residence. Mother stood on the upper floor, watching that blaze. Her gaze was calm. Good that it burned clean. And this Shen residence will truly be clean. Father's funeral was held with great splendor. The emperor specially sent the minister of rites to offer condolences. Mother, dressed in her full imperial decree attire, brought me along to thank the guests. No one dared to look down on this widow and orphan anymore. Everyone knew that although the Shen family had lost a man, two even more formidable women had risen. After the funeral ended, Mother handed all the household ledgers and keys over to me. Juer, from now on, the Shen family is yours to manage. Mother is tired and wants to rest. I took those things that symbolized power. I knew Mother wasn't really tired. She wanted to give me the stage, to let me display my talents and write my own legend. Mother, don't worry. I held Mother's hand, gazing firmly into the distance. Your daughter will definitely make the Shen family the top household in the capital, and make everyone who once looked down on us look up to us. Outside the window, the snow had stopped. A red sun rose from the east, illuminating the entire land. It was a newborn sun, and the beginning of a new life for us mother and daughter. Su Yunyang was dead, but things weren't complete. Those who had clung to her and stirred up trouble in the mansion, and those branch families in the clan who tried to fish in troubled waters, all still needed a thorough cleanup. Although third grand uncle had temporarily backed down, I knew he was definitely not resigned to it. This kind of old fox would bite back the moment you gave him the slightest chance. So I had to strike while the iron was hot, while the authority of the imperial edict still carried weight, and root out all these hidden dangers. 3 days later, in the name of rectifying family conduct, I summoned all the clan members. The location was the Shen family ancestral hall. This time, it wasn't them forcing my hand. It was me establishing my authority. I had someone bring out the Shen family's account books from the past few years, along with evidence of third grand uncle's branch embezzling the clan's sacrificial fields and misappropriating funds from the clan school. These things were secretly collected by Steward Liu on my orders long ago. Third grand uncle. I threw that thick stack of account books in front of him. You are getting on in years, so your memory probably isn't too good. Over these 10 years, your branch has withdrawn a total of 35,000 taels from the clan's coffers, and those 500 mu of sacrificial fields. How did they end up as private property under your grandson's name? Third grand. Uncle stared at those account books, cold sweat streaming down his face. He never expected that I, a young girl, would have such a long reach and investigate so thoroughly. This is all a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. I let out a cold laugh, whether it is a misunderstanding or not. We'll know once the authorities look into it. I think Censor Jiang would be very interested in hearing the story of how the Shen clan embezzled the property of an orphan and widow. Hearing the words authorities and Censor Jiang, third grand. Uncle completely panicked. He dropped to his knees with a thud. Young Mingju. No, eldest miss. This old fool was muddled. This old fool was momentarily blinded by greed. I beg you, for the sake of our shared bloodline, spare this old man just this once. Seeing this, the other clan elders also began pleading on his behalf. They all had some dirt under their nails, terrified they'd be the next ones investigated. I looked down at them from above. Sparing you all isn't out of the question. But there is one condition. Starting today, the Shen family's clan rules must change. From now on, all clan affairs must be decided by the matriarch and me, the head of the household. No branch families may interfere with the main family's affairs for any reason. Also, all the silver and land you've swallowed up, spit it all out within 3 days. If even a single coin is missing, I'll go beat the drum of grievances. Under my thunderous methods, the clan was completely subdued. Those elders who once acted so high and mighty were now docile as sheep before me. For the first time in the truest sense, the Shen family's power was completely concentrated in our hands, mother and daughter. With internal troubles resolved, next came expansion. Those few shops that mother had secretly acquired under the guise of selling off her dowry had now become the most profitable golden brands in the capital. Using memories from my past life, I improved the fabric dyeing formula and launched several new fabrics with vibrant colors that would never fade. I named it Flowing Cloud Brocade. As soon as it launched, the noblewoman of the capital went crazy, snatching it up. Even though the price was set higher than tribute goods, supply still couldn't meet demand. As for those restaurants, I introduced several signature dishes, like Buddha jumps over the wall and beggar's chicken. Those officials and nobles, accustomed to the finest delicacies, came flocking in droves. In just half a year, the Shen family's wealth had multiplied several times over. Not only did we fill the deficit Shen Yi had left behind, we also became one of the top merchants in the capital. But all of this was done in secret. On the surface, the Shen residence still maintained its low-key, frugal style. Mother ate vegetarian food and chanted Buddhist scriptures daily, still a pitiful, chaste widow. And I was a filial daughter who had no choice but to support the family business. This contrast allowed us to earn a fortune while also gaining an excellent reputation. Even His Majesty once praised us at a palace banquet. The Shen mother and daughter are truly exemplary women of Great Zhou. With money and fame came the stepping stones to power. I began using my wealth to secretly sponsor talented scholars from poor backgrounds. These people would all become pillars of the court in the future, and become the Shen family's most steadfast allies. I was weaving a web of vast, invisible network of connections. In this web, I was the queen who controlled everything. The year I came of age, suitors wore down the Shen family's doorstep. Even though I was looking for a husband to marry into our family. But with the Shen family's current wealth and status, plus my identity as daughter of a titled lady, plenty of people were willing even if it meant marrying in. There were merchant sons coveting the Shen family's wealth. There were down and out scholars wanting to borrow the Shen family's influence. There were even a few illegitimate sons of marquis houses. Mother laid those betrothal cards before me and let me choose myself. Juer, this is after all a matter for your whole life. Whoever you like, that is who we'll take in. I casually flipped through those marriage proposals. Most were either ugly losers or people with crooked intentions. I tossed them aside. Mother, I am not in a hurry. What I am looking for isn't a husband, but a subject, who is obedient, capable, and will never betray me. Latter, I selected someone from among the scholars I had sponsored. His name was Gu Qingfeng. He was an orphan. No father, no mother, no attachments. But he was brilliantly talented, with a calm and reserved temperament. Most importantly, he had an almost worshipful loyalty toward me. During my most difficult times, he was the one who helped me manage those secret businesses, never once making a mistake. Even when faced with enormous wealth, he never had any selfish thoughts. That night, I called him to the study, Gu Qingfeng. I want to take you as a live-in husband for the Shen family. Are you willing? He froze for a moment, then knelt on one knee, his gaze burning. Qingfeng's life was given by Miss. As long as Miss doesn't find me unworthy, Qingfeng is willing to follow Miss for life, to be the Shen family's guard dog. Just like that, my marriage was settled. There was no extravagant 10-mile bridal procession, only a simple yet solemn ceremony. Gu Qingfeng married into the Shen family and changed his name to Shen Qingfeng. He rose steadily in the court, becoming my right-hand man. And at home, he was the most gentle and considerate husband. Between us, perhaps there wasn't that kind of passionate, earth-shaking love. But we have a community of shared interests, stronger than love, and a tacit understanding of mutual trust. This is the marriage I want. 3 years later, Mother's 60th birthday. To commend the Shen family's contributions to the court, mainly Shen Qingfeng's great achievements in border trade, plus the Shen family's enormous annual tax payments. The emperor specially issued a decree, conferring upon Mother the title of Supreme State Lady. This was an honor only imperial relatives could enjoy. The birthday banquet that day caused a sensation throughout the entire capital. Treasures bestowed from the imperial palace flowed into the Shen residence like water. The guests who came to offer birthday wishes covered the entire elite circle of Great Zhou, even that previously high and mighty third grand. Uncle could now only kneel at the outermost edge, still wearing an ingratiating smile. Mother wore the imperially bestowed phoenix crown and ceremonial robes, sitting gracefully in the seat of honor. Time had left its marks on her face, but had also bestowed upon her a composed and unhurried nobility. She looked at the hall full of guests, looked at me standing beside her, now the head of the Shen family. In her eyes, tears glistened. Your mother held my hand and said softly, "This life of mine, it was worth it. If I hadn't listened to you back then, if I had really left, I would probably have become a handful of yellow earth long ago." I squeezed Mother's hand back and said with a smile, "Mother, this is what you deserve. It is what we won back together." At that moment, I seemed to see my mother from my previous life, who had died miserably on her sickbed. I saw myself being trampled underfoot by Su Yunyang, crying in despair. Those images, at this moment, completely shattered and scattered into the wind. We didn't just survive, we became legends. Many more years passed. The Shen family had truly become the foremost noble house of Great Zhou. Mi Sun, the new heir of the Shen family, was clever and quick-witted, deeply favored by His Majesty. Shen Qingfeng rose to the position of Prime Minister, wielding power over the entire court, yet he still came to report to me first, every day after court ended. In this household, I remained the ultimate decision-maker who had the final say. Mother had grown old, and she liked basking in the sun in the garden, playing with her great-grandchildren. Her life now was so comfortable it made others envious. Even when she occasionally thought of that Shen Yi who died early, she would only smile faintly, as if speaking of some insignificant passerby. That old thing, he had bad luck, didn't have the fortune to enjoy this immense wealth. A leisurely afternoon. I sat in a rocking chair, gazing at the garden full of blooming crabapple flowers, holding an account book in my hands, flipping through it half-heartedly. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the leaves, spilling onto my face, warm and cozy. I thought back to that afternoon when I returned from Rebirth, that dark secret room, that heart-pounding gamble. The resolve of that moment brought about today's flourishing splendor. In this world, there has never been any savior. If a woman wants to live well, wants dignity, wants freedom, she can only rely on herself, by my wits, by my tactics, by that heart that says, though tens of millions stand against me, I shall go forth. I closed the ledger, the corner of my lips curling into a satisfied smile. The wind blew past, and crabapple petals drifted down in flurries. As if, for this life of mine, it rained the most beautiful shower of blossoms.